Welcome back to Clarkston Lighthouse Guidance. My name is Chandler Fleming. I'm the owner and lead therapist at Clarkston Lighthouse Counseling here in Clarkston, Michigan.
And I'm Victoria Fleming, and I am owner and therapist at Clarkston Lighthouse Counseling. Welcome to our show today. And today, Chandler, we are talking about ditch that attitude, choose gratitude. Okay. Interesting, eh?
It is. I think it's really cool. So when you say gratitude, what do you mean?
Gratitude. Gratitude is the opportunity to take a look at what's around me, the people in my life, and be thankful. Gratitude would be Thanksgiving and counting my blessings, list them one by one.
Okay.
What about for you? What would gratitude be?
I think it's a mindset. It is a ability to interpret things around us and look at the whole picture. So being able to see the silver lining sometimes, and also being able to see just in comparison, or what is our standard for good, to recognize kind of in an optimist way that there's a lot of things that are good. It's sort of funny because I've had a lot of situations as a supervisor. People say, you never really talk to me about the good stuff. You always tell me what's wrong. And I think our mind is prone to that. You show up to work every day. Nobody says, wow, you showed up to work today. I'm so grateful you're here. But you don't show up to work and it's, hey, I noticed you weren't here yesterday. So it's, I think our mind is biased towards that. Also, even the news, plane lands safely. Wow, that's kind of cool. Nobody died. It's an awesome thing.
Right.
But we don't tend to focus on those things. Plane crash, killed 20. That gets attention.
And it's plastered everywhere. That's
Right.
a good point. So I think you're right. It would definitely be an intentional effort to focus on what is right in my life rather than what may be wrong. And I think what you're saying too is that it is a conscious effort that has to be made, because it can be so easy for me to focus on, and I think for anyone, to focus on those things that may be lacking rather than the so many things that are present. What's interesting about gratitude is it's actually made a really big splash. Since the early 2000s, I'm kind of thinking like 2003, there was like a real big surge into the research on gratitude. And there are a number of researchers, but three in particular, who did a number of studies. And it was interesting because it was hundreds of people. So it was a pretty big scope of people, which makes it more valid, I think, And what they found with people who learned to become more grateful, who shifted their brains to notice the positive, that there was a lot of really positive impact. And it was positive impact in so many areas. Can you think of some ways, that maybe gratitude would be impactful?
Oh, I think it's really across the board in a lot of areas, our social ways and our relationships and things along those lines. I think we control our feelings and our emotions, and when we start to be thankful, it's hard to be sad, and it's hard to feel jealous or angry when we focus on what we have.
It was super interesting. HappyHuman.com actually had a list of 31 ways, which is a lot. 31 ways, I think it was 31, that gratitude positively impacts happiness. And we actually do have a chart, and it shows happiness as the center. But there were 5 key areas surrounding that happiness, and it was personality. That gratitude can actually impact a person's personality, which I thought was huge. Emotional, the social, the career, that it totally can impact career, as well as health. And so I thought it'd be fun for us to really kind of dive in and look at, and I know one of the areas with the social is they looked at couples who had been together, and when those couples started taking an opportunity to express some of their gratitude, even as simple as, say, having dinner and saying, what was the best part of your day? And just taking a few minutes together to answer that question. Well, the best part of my day was when, and filling in that blank, that the brain did find great comfort and relief in being able to focus on that positive, So
awesome.
What about for you? Can you think of, another example socially?
I just think about how much it influences others. that, it was kind of a funny experiment when I was quite young, to go into an average restaurant and talk about how great the hamburger is and go, oh man, this is awesome. And people would go, yeah, my hamburger's really good. And I wonder what's in it. And just being thankful and kind of optimistic about just a plain hamburger and how much difference it made and how it was contagious. And really the opposite, that somebody starts to complain about something pretty small and how contagious that criticism and that unthankfulness can really take off.
And I think it's interesting. I think as you talking about it being contagious would be exactly why it would positively impact a career. And I know one aspect of one of the studies talked about telemarketers. And there were these two groups of fundraising telemarketers. And the one group, they very deliberately praised them and were thanking them. Thank you so much for what you're doing and for the time that you're taking and the effort that you're making. Well, then these two groups went back. The break was over and they started doing their telemarketing again. It was a fundraiser. And those who had been thanked had 50% increase in the number of calls made and the success within those calls.
Oh, sure.
So there was something very impactful about just that positive energy that went with.
Yeah. It reminds me of I think it was the Westinghouse experiment, where they tried to increase productivity in workers. And they gave them more pay, they gave them time off, they gave them gifts. But the number one thing that made workers be more productive was legitimate praise and recognition. And that when they got that praise and recognition, productivity went up more than even giving them financial bonuses.
Which is interesting too, because then that hits that social aspect of it being bonding. If I do go to a restaurant and it doesn't even have to be that the service is over the moon great, but if I'm thankful to that individual and I let them know, thank you so much for filling up my tea, and there's a smile on my face, then I start noticing that the person who's assisting me starts connecting with me in a more meaningful way, and that we both become human beings, and that our paths have intersected, and that we can enjoy that time together, even if it's brief, even if it's just for lunch. And so it's just such a win-win, that grateful heart. The physical, it was super interesting in that it showed that people who start developing that attitude of gratitude fell asleep more easily, slept better, that people even with chronic pain who sleep can be such an issue found that, wow, when I started developing an attitude of gratitude, or ditched the bad attitude and chose gratitude, that they began to see improvements.
And I like the fact that I think there's a cycle involved in this, in that a lot of different cycles, but that when we tend to be optimistic with people, and we tend to have that gratitude, they're more relaxed, they're more receptive, they're more willing to give gratitude back. And so it just keeps building and you get that synergy going in a real positive way.
Which I'm loving, because then it totally shows how the emotional is impacted. So we've hit on the career, we've hit on the social, we've hit on some of the physical, but, with the emotional, like you said, it becomes an optimistic way of looking at things rather than a pessimistic way. So something else that was very interesting is there was a very definite look that 6 impacts on the brain. And as they started looking at the ways that the brain changes, and I know you've referenced to the fact that those neural pathways can change, and we've talked about the fact that scans can actually show negative neural pathways and how it negatively impacts. Well, the same can be true in how the brain is affected with positive, and that we can choose. So one of the ways in which the brain was impacted is it actually triggers reward chemicals, and these chemicals are actually even more like you want to do the behavior again than the pleasure chemicals. And I'm talking pleasure chemicals like that you get from eating chocolate. Love my chocolate. And they're telling me it's even more satisfying, and I want to do it again, and sex.
That's pretty awesome too.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome too. So I was like, wow. So it triggers a place in the brain, reward chemicals, that causes a person to want to do it again. And that it's a very satisfying sensation that the brain gets. Another way that the brain was impacted with the increase in gratitude were symptoms of anxiety and depression may lessen.
Oh, cool.
Now, definitely not saying ditch the therapist. If you've been prescribed a medication, ditch the medication. That was not the goal. The goal was just to see if this was added, what was the possible impact? Have you noticed that, when you're working with people?
Oh, definitely. When I think of gratitude, I think of the underlying things. So in order to have gratitude, there are a lot of components to it. You have to choose what you believe, in recognizing that we can choose what we believe. Mm-hmm. We have to choose to focus some on the positive side. We need to change our awareness. So if we're aware of the positive, we're less aware of the negative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting too. Many of us have heard of the term hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus works in a number of ways, but some of the ways that might be very meaningful to some of us, or probably all of us, is in impacts of metabolism, sleep, and hunger. And when you look at the number of people who are talking about, trouble with sleep, people who are feeling hungry, that maybe it's not really hunger, it's a underlying pessimism or sadness,
sure.
And their metabolism. So people who improve their attitude of gratitude actually found a synergistic, beautiful thing happened where hunger and sleep and metabolic rates were all impacted in a very positive way.
Yeah, I think of my clients who are brittle diabetic and how important that was, that maintaining that attitude of gratitude kept their sugar much, much more stable. Mm-hmm. And that when they went down that negative path, that things got out of whack, that their sugar spiked or their sugar just bottomed out, and how important it was to maintain that appropriate attitude.
And the reality is diabetes is very frustrating, and yet we live in a country where treatment is available.
Right.
And a brittle diabetic in this day and age is able to live a satisfying life.
Yeah.
And then it also showed that people who have developed a healthier sense of gratitude handle stress better.
Sure.
And are just more resilient. So traffic and a boss being in a bad mood or a coworker being in a bad mood, all of those things impacted those individuals less significantly.
Yeah.
And
I think one of the things that I most frequently come about when I try to bring up this topic in therapy is that most people fail to recognize the realness, the reality, the truth to gratitude. Mm-hmm. I've had people say to me, well, I don't want to lie to myself. I don't want to lie myself to feel better. But the truth is there. The truth of the goodness of things does exist, and that it's not a kind of a mind game of being thankful for things that aren't there, but it's really recognizing the good stuff.
Absolutely, and that's so important. So 2 other ways, we hit on the 4, but 2 others, and we've really already hit on this, but sleep, I just feel like I'm surrounded by people who are saying, I just don't sleep well, and there are definitely, melatonin levels can diminish with age, but I think it's amazing that with an attitude of improved gratefulness, the individuals fell asleep more easily.
Oh, I could see that for sure.
More peacefully. I mean, there's just an overall sense of just greater rest that comes from it. And then again, that improved emotion overall. And this even looked at deeper than that I'm less anxious or I'm not as sad. This actually looked at that people who are grateful are more helpful. They're more empathetic. They're more forgiving. It was actually interesting. It showed that people get less focused on their materials and they're less materialistic. Oh, cool. They're more willing just to give. Yeah. Gosh, I've got an extra coat, take mine, because it's less about, gee, I have 4 coats that I really like. It's more about being in connection.
Yep.
And being social. And, this information, if you're interested, was actually found through 6 Ways Gratitude Affects Your Brain on bustle.com, and just some really neat information on that. So then, let's talk about, and you've alluded to some and made reference to some, how we shift from that focusing on the gray cloud in the midst of a blue sky and focusing on the thankfulness of the blue sky. What are some ways that we can shift?
Well, it's one of my favorite sayings, and really one of those sayings is that feelings are indicators, not dictators. And when we recognize the power that we have in choosing how we feel about something, that it really is a choice, that we can choose gratitude. That it's not just a mind game that you make up things, but it's an awareness. It's being present.
And I've got to, I'm going to give you an example. I have an image of a bathing suit. And I had very, very recently maybe a silly situation, but it was so impactful for me. So you and I had this great opportunity of grabbing our gym clothes and running to the gym, and our decision where we were going to swim, and then we needed to get back to work and see some other clients. And so I get to the gym and I realize I have forgotten my bra.
Oh no, scandalous.
Oh, scandalous. And I'm thinking, okay, so I don't have enough time, so now I may have to go home and I may have to, forget. And then I thought, no, this is silly. I'm just going to go ahead and swim. Surely I can get that bathing suit dry. And so, did so. And now I'm at a place where I've got to get dressed. And guess what? My bathing suit is still wet.
So your bathing suit is now your undergarment.
My bathing suit is now my undergarment that I'm going to have to wear to work.
Okay.
And it is wet. And I tried the sauna.
That's horrible. How could you live with that?
I used the hair dryer. And so I get to work and there's definitely, it's cold. Yeah. It's cold. And I'm cold.
Yeah.
And I get to work and just in the midst of a conversation, we started looking at gratitude and started listing reasons to be grateful. And I felt prompted to write bathing suit. And so within the discussion, it was like, why are you thankful for your wet bathing suit? And it was a shift. That wet bathing suit represented that on a miserable, cold Michigan day, I got to swim in a heated pool.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's just this subtle shift. And I think, even as we're recovering from different situations, to focus on, like we said, even about the diabetic, a person can camp on, I'm diabetic, or they can do a shift and be so thankful for the fact that there's excellent medical care to provide them a healthy life. And so it's that shift, So another, you made reference to present.
Yes.
And I am a highly visual person, and this is one where I started thinking about the different meanings for present. And there are actually 3 that started coming to my mind, that they're present, present, and present. And looking at that, so you've got present in a particular place. So I have a picture of this person raising their hand. Here, present, I'm here. Yep. The other one is occurring now. Okay. Present is happening. It's just happening now, this moment. And then the other is a gift or a present. And so I really started looking at how much that we miss in life. I miss the cardinal flying, by. I miss the rainbow that may be across the sky because I'm so focused on getting to where I'm going. And yet, if I could learn to be present here, in the present, what's happening now, to receive the gift of what's happening now, I could find a lot of things for which to be grateful.
Yeah.
So I want to learn to open the gift of now and not be so caught up in the heaviness of maybe what's happened in the past, or maybe leaning so hard, gripping the steering wheel, trying to get to where I need to go to in the future, that I lose sight of the gift of what's happening this moment and who I'm with.
And I really have to work on that myself when I'm on vacation, because I can be so focused on, okay, now what? What's next? I'm sitting at a beautiful beach. I'm just sipping on a margarita. Okay, what am I going to do next? And to recognize I'm on the beach. Right now I'm sipping a margarita, and this is just such a great gift to be in the moment.
I mean, look at this. Right now, we are blessed to be in this Independence Television recording studio with some dynamic people to support us, and what a neat opportunity.
Great opportunity. And, be impactful to those people who get to watch the program, and hopefully puts a shift in their attitude towards gratitude.
So then the question becomes, okay, so how else? So I'm going to be present. I'm going to try to be mindful. And some of the tools that were actually used by the researchers were keep a gratitude journal.
Oh, cool.
And I guess there are actually even free apps that are available where people can, on their phones, just kind of keep. And I saw that cardinal, and then they'll actually stop and add, saw a beautiful red cardinal today.
Got a smartphone.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a smartphone to record.
Got connection at this moment. Got a good signal. Yeah.
I've got internet, absolutely. So, and I keep thinking about Oprah Winfrey. I know at some point in time, I don't know if it's a book of hers or someone else's book, but I do remember some years back that there was this huge emphasis on keep a notebook, keep a journal, keep a notebook, keep a journal.
Okay.
You know, so that they could keep up with all the reasons to be thankful. Another one was people were encouraged to go ahead and write a thank you note, and it may have even been like a long overdue thank you note. You know, I mean, can you think of someone in your past that maybe we could go home and you'd be like, I just want to tell them thank you.
Oh, for sure.
You know, a teacher, a friend, you know, maybe even a gift that you got and you forgot to write a thank you note.
Yeah.
That was very helpful. Again, and we made reference to this, but that encouraging the talking about gratitude with each other. So what's been the best part of your day so far?
You are, babe.
Oh, see, good
For
answer.
sure.
And then it becomes social because
doing this program with you, I'm just thankful because I would not know what to say if I was here all by myself.
So I've been encouraged, you've been encouraged,
very encouraging.
And we've been socially bonded because of this experience.
Right.
So, which is true.
Yes.
I mean, it's socially bonding. And then just to become more aware of the reasons to be grateful. And I can think of an example with that one. Gosh, there was one day, and it was just one of those silly moments where I was so frustrated by our little shower. You know, we just got this little shower, and I went into it with a grumbly heart. I did. You know, like, oh my goodness, as I yanked the curtain back, it's such a little shower after being at your mom's and that ginormous one. And I was comparing, and I was not a happy camper.
Okay.
But as I got in there, I just stop it. And then I started looking at that hot and cold water, and here I'm shifting, and it's a little too cold, and I'd add a little hot. And I shifted to an attitude of gratitude. And by the time I got out of my little shower, it became a sauna.
Oh, cool.
It did. It became this incredible experience where I was focused on clean running water. I was focused on temperature controlled clean running water. You know, just the smell of the shampoo. And it was just such a positive experience. And it was amazing how I went in one person, and when I chose gratitude, I truly did come out another person.
Oh, that's great.
You know, and so, you know, as we start wrapping up, you made some reference about a shoe and a foot earlier before we even got on camera.
A shoe and a foot. Oh, okay. I'm trying to think, what are you talking about? You know, I oftentimes, when I think about the attitude of gratitude, is really a poem, and I'm going to misquote it badly. You could probably YouTube it or Google it, but one of the lines of the poem is, you know, I felt sad for myself when I had no shoes. Then I met a man with no feet. You know, I felt sad for myself when I had nothing good to look at. But then I met a man with no eyes. And really putting things in perspective can definitely help that attitude of gratitude.
Yeah, it can. So just be encouraged. We do have the opportunity to change how we think, and in such a positive way, a way that will improve our overall health, that will improve our success at work, that will improve our social relationships with other people and improve our emotional well-being, even possibly change our personalities for the better. And that's a very hopeful thing.
Yeah. And you guys out there can increase our gratitude. We would be grateful if you would shoot us a line, give us some thoughts on our show,
feedback,
possibly just some ideas of what you have for future shows. Would love to know what you would like, so check us out on Facebook. We're out there on Clarkston Lighthouse Guidance, and we are truly grateful for those who watch and see us around town or wherever and just say, hey, I saw you on TV. That really makes our day. So thank you so much for watching, and look forward to seeing you guys next time.
Have a beautiful day. Bye.
The views expressed in this show are for general educational purposes only and do not constitute professional advice on any subject matter, nor do they necessarily reflect the views or opinions of its guests or of Independence Television. If mental health assistance is needed, please seek professional licensed treatment.